Welcome to Look Around the Confederation. I'm your host for the evening, Moose. And before we get started, please remember the views and opinions expressed on this broadcast not necessarily the views and opinions of the SCV, its GEC, nor Division Brigade Camp subsidiaries. How is everybody doing in Dixieland tonight? We have a great show for you, kind of what the interviews have been building up to for the very first half of Look Around Season 4. We are going to have on Lieutenant Commander-in-Chief Walter D. Donnie Kennedy on to talk about his platform for Commander-in-Chief of the Sons of Confederate Veterans. So it's going to be a great one. I told him, and, I might get fired next season after this, so y'all say goodbye to me now, that I'm so happy to have a Kennedy running because I didn't have to worry about questions this episode. I just knew that I only have two, really, because I knew he would handle the rest. So, you know what they say, we're all from Mississippi, so we all like to talk. But we do have a bit of news tonight before we jump into it. Not a lot. We've been posting a lot more. So if you haven't seen your post on the SCV Chat Facebook page or Instagram page, please let us know. But if you do see it, share it out. We're posting a lot of good stuff this week, some cemetery cleanups, and a lot of great SCV camp events. So please share all this out. Support these other brethren in arms with us. And let's get the good word out. All right, first bit of news. I keep forgetting to move this down the page, and I honestly should, considering it's my camp. But the Samuel H. Poe Camp, number 255, out of Wayne County, Mississippi, are selling these 30th edition challenge or 30th anniversary challenge coins of our champs recharting. They're $10 each. Of course, all the proceeds go to the Samuel H. Poe Camp to continue preserving heritage and defending it and educating the other community at large at Wayne County. You can contact the camp adjutant at Harrison SCV, or you can contact our camp commander, my father, at Forest SCV. So if you want one, check us out. We will be having those at National Reunion. All right. The General Forest 200 Society was made a couple years ago, and of course, in honor of General Nathan Bedford Forrest's 200th birthday. You get this lovely challenge coin, patch, and label pin, and all proceeds go to General Forrest's boyhood home to help preserve it. So this is a great thing. Again, I'm hoping one day I actually have $200 to send to him. Maybe at National I'll have it saved up and I can finally join, because I've been wanting to join since they announced it a couple years ago. And there always seems to be something happening to my poor bank account where I'm not able to join. So I'm hoping to finally join, and I hope you join me in joining the General Nathan Bedford Forrest 200th Society. All right. Last bit of news, and just kind of reminding everybody about this camp's awesome project they're doing. But the I have Commander Kennedy on tonight too, so I know he's going to correct me. So this is a joyful experience for me. But the Tallahassee Armory Guards Camp is undergoing a project to erect 5 monuments on their property. This is a big thing they're doing. It's fantastic. It makes me smile every time I read it. But they're asking for donations to be sent to their camp commander, Commander Randall. Of course, the address is scrolling across the bottom of the screen. And make checks payable to Camp 1921 Monument Fund. I think I do have some pictures for them. Here's two, of course, with General Robert E. Lee and General Nathan Bedford Forrest. Here's their one of General Jackson that's already up. Beautiful monument. And I believe that's their camp commander, Commander Randall. So please go support them. This is a fantastic project they're doing. Absolutely wonderful. I cannot thank them enough to see it. Our Chief of Heritage Operations beat Lieutenant Commander-in-Chief Donnie Kennedy to the punch to sound it out to me. But yes, sir, they are a very active camp. I'm so proud to see them in this fight with us. They're doing great work, and I hope you guys please support them. Again, scrolling across the bottom of the screen. If you have any questions, we can get you in contact with them because we're not going to answer questions on their behalf. But please go check them out. Give them a check. Great work. All right. Let's see here. I'm going to wait a bit longer so everybody can get on. Please be sharing this out. We have who could be our future commander-in-chief on tonight. So please share this out. I would like to see a big crowd tonight. Florida man, Sean McFall says that everybody forgives me for my lack of pronunciation. Thank you, Mr. Sean. Of course, our Chief of Heritage Operations, Mr. Ron Kendi in the chat. Dr. Samuel Mitchum in the chat. Good to see you, Dr. Mitchum. Miss Linda, good to see you. Mr. John, good to see you. Mr. Tony Griffin in the chat. Good to see you, sir. Victor Smith, Ron Rogers, and Al. Good to see you all. And Mr. Robert, good to see you. Yes, Mr. John, if you don't mind, email us at scvyouthOutreach@gmail.com and send us a picture or two that we can post with it, and we'll definitely post it on the Facebook page. Victor, your news, if I'm not mistaken, was posted on the Facebook page and Instagram page. That's something we started doing this year to make sure that like everybody gets attention, because there's some news cycles where we have so much news that we can't get to it all. And yeah, there's some news cycles where we might not have a lot of news, but we are trying to get better at getting everybody's information out there. So I think, Victor, your news was picked to go up on the Facebook and Instagram page. If not, I will post it after the show. But I believe yours is on the Facebook page and Instagram page. And I'm asking everybody to go share that out to help out these camps post to make sure as many people can see them as possible. All right. We're going to take a quick Pop-Tart break. And when we come back, we will have Lieutenant Commander-in-Chief Walter D. Donnie Kennedy on to talk about his platform for Commander-in-Chief. Now, of course, our sponsors so far this year is, of course, our Patreon. SCV Chat is trying to take things to the next level, and you can help us do that by just donating $10 a month to our Patreon. That Patreon is helping us with making a Patreon exclusive show where you get to join me and Connor as I pay my dues and actually learn real history. It's kind of weird to say that I've been in college for as long as I have, and I didn't learn a wink of real history. So I've taken it upon myself to read history and discover it myself. As Shelby Foote said, becoming a historian is like becoming a lawyer and a doctor. There's a whole lot of reading that goes in and learning and educating yourself before you earn that title. And I take being a historian very seriously. So you get to join us on a journey over at Patreon, where you get to have an exclusive show of me trying to read. It's going to be interesting. This first book has been a doozy and a half. I started reading it about a week ago. And I want to thank Carl for giving me such an amazing long book for our first episode. It's going to be broken down into multi-episodes because it's so long, but it's a great book. It's really diving into a lot of great stuff that I never really thought about before. So it's doing its job. So come join me as I learn how to become a historian by learning the history, culture, and everything we can about the South. And we will be doing some Revolutionary War history in there as well. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. And, oh, wait, almost forgot, Creative Cockades. Creative Cockades made the secession cockade for the Mississippi Division reunion this year. That was that replaced our medals for this year. Beautiful work, historically accurate, and good prices. I don't think you can beat that. So please go support our other sponsor, Creative Cockades, at their website below. The link will be in the chat, and we'll be right back after this Pop-Tart break.
There is a place nestled in the rolling farmland of southern Middle Tennessee. A home constructed in 1837, nearly lost to the ravages of war. Saved by a servant and a Confederate general. A place where families loved and lost. If walls could talk, what stories could be told? If a place, a home, can feel love, loss, pain, surely this is one of those places. Nearby is a more recent structure, and inside are the stories of heroes and heroines, stories of battles won and lost, stories of sacrifices made by the people of its native soil. A place that will tell the true and complete story of the Southland and the war fought for its freedom. From the causes that led to the conflict to the modern-day struggles to protect Southern history. Historic Elm Springs and the Confederate Museum at Elm Springs are the general headquarters for the Sons of Confederate Veterans. A place where the story of the Southland and its historic struggle is preserved and told. Come and discover your history.
Welcome back, and I'm joined by Lieutenant Commander-in-Chief Walter D. Donnie Kennedy.
Hey, Moose. Hey, I'm sorry, but every time I drive across Lake D'Arbonne, I remember you and think of you, and I live real close to Lake D'Arbonne.
D'Arbonne went on for way longer than it should have.
It's good to be with you, son.
Yes, sir. It's good to have you on. I think I called it that all the way up until the week of the event where someone was nice enough to finally correct me. And I was like, well, there's always next year.
There you go. But
we're happy to have you on, Commander. I'm looking forward to tonight's episode. And, of course, we're going to start you off with what we've been asking everybody is tell us a bit about you, the man, and then tell us about your SCV career so far.
Okay, I'll tell you a little bit about the man, but first I want to get this across to everybody that's listening. The Kennedy brothers, Kennedy twins, the Kennedy twins are not about defending. We're all about winning. We can win this struggle. I honestly believe it. I know it is a fact. So if you elect me your commander-in-chief, you better be in the winning mood and be willing to do those things necessary to win, because win just doesn't, it's not the wind that blows in, it's W-I-N. We are going to win this struggle. We can do it. So let me just tell you a little bit about myself. I was born in this great sovereign state of Mississippi. It was sovereign till the Yankees invaded and conquered it. But I was born in Mississippi. My ancestors were from Georgia and South Carolina, moved into the Mississippi state of Mississippi in 1820, 3 years after Mississippi came into the Union. And when I was a young man, I moved over to Louisiana to work as a respiratory therapist and go get my education. I plan on going back home to Mississippi, but a Louisiana woman and a Mississippi man got together over here in Louisiana, and the rest, you know, the rest of the story. We've been here ever since. I'm a registered respiratory therapist, a registered nurse, and a certified registered nurse anesthetist. I've ran my own business for several years, was quite successful with it. I sold that, went to anesthesia school. I practiced anesthesia for many years, retired. I still work 1 day a week just to keep my hands involved in something. But basically, I am retired. My wife and I are retired. I have 4 children and 16 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren. So that's the history of basically Ron and myself, do a little bit of variation there. But we both came from Mississippi to Louisiana, and Louisiana is our home, and we love it. But Mississippi will always be a home turf. But we've got relatives all across the South and all across the nation. And Moose, you do too, I noticed, because you and I are related because we both have Confederate blood, right?
Yes, sir.
Good. I like that. So that's a little bit about me, my history in the SCV. Growing up, and a lot of people ask me, how did you get so involved in this Southern, quote, Civil War thing? That's what they used to call it, for I correct them. And I said, I was born into it. I remember hearing my great aunt talk about taking care of her uncle, who was a Confederate soldier that got shot by a Yankee sniper. And she had no love lost for anything north of the Mason-Dixon. My grandparents, their family talked about what happened, the horrors that they went through, not only in the war itself, but during Reconstruction. That, like I said, those people tried to starve us to death for 10 years after the war. So, and that starvation really continued. When I was born in 1947, I had a great aunt that was being treated for pellagra. Now, if y'all don't know it, pellagra is a third world disease. It is a disease caused by malnutrition. Pellagra was rampant throughout the South after the war. The South was one of the richest sections of the nation, and in the world at that time. They were ranked number 3 in the world and they had no such thing. The free and enslaved people were healthy, and they was doing very well. But after the war, Yankee occupation and destruction, we couldn't even feed our own people. And that lasted, like I say, to the time I was born. And still to this day, the South is suffering from what we had lost back then. So I joined because I joined the SCV in 1985, and I was the camp commander of the Thomas O. Benton camp in Monroe, Louisiana. That camp has spun off at least 4 or 5 other camps in the area. I later served as Louisiana Division Commander. And of course, I served as councilman for the Army of the Trans-Mississippi around 94, 95, 1995, 96. And then I served, of course, as you know, as under Commander Paul Gremlin and Looney. My goodness. McClooney, he's gonna kill me. The great author Larry McClooney, and I served as his chief of heritage operation, and was recently 2 years ago elected lieutenant commander in chief. So basically, I have served in just about every office in the state and the national level, and I intend, as I say, if the membership chooses to elect me. Now, this is no guarantee. After people hear what we're saying tonight, they might decide from the floor to nominate somebody else and elect somebody else. If that be the case, the Kennedy twins will pat them on the back and say, what can we do to help you? And so if they find somebody better, great. Otherwise, I intend, if I win this election, if I am chosen your commander-in-chief, we are going on a winning contest. We're going to win this battle. We're not going to defend. It used to be in the SCV, when an incident happened, the first thing people thought about was, let's get a lawyer and let's go to court. Well, we found out that, yes, we need it. Sometimes you have to go to court, but that should not be your first response. If that's your first response, then you haven't been doing something right in the last 3 or 4 years. I told somebody here recently, and I'm going to tell everybody now, if I'm your commander-in-chief and you have an incident in your local camp or local brigade and you need the national to step in and help, I'm going to ask you, the first thing I'm going to ask you is, what have you done in the last year, 2 years, or 3 years to prevent this from happening? Have you been putting information out in your local community via Dixie Defenders, by letters to your local elected officials, your Kiwanis Club, your Veteran Club from your local camp? Is your organization in your community well known, or is it a well-kept secret? If it's a well-kept secret, folks, we're already behind the 8 ball. We're already losing. if you put your camp, your information, and the name of the Sons of Confederate Veterans out in the community ahead of time, you're going to do two things. Number one, you're going to have that general population that already agrees basically with us in the South, and as I'll show you in a minute, in the nation. You're going to have those people saying, hey, we don't want our monument taken down. We don't want those people denied the right to be in that parade. Plus, you will have put the political establishment on notice that there is a well-oiled organization in this community that will give them grief come election time if they vote against us. Because most of the thing that's happening, I'm going to pick on Mississippi because I am a Mississippian, nothing enraged me more than the way that flag was ripped down by the legislature of Mississippi that was basically controlled by conservative and moderates. That should have never happened because, as the election proved and as our SCV poll proves, over 95% of the people in Mississippi, the conservative voting and moderate voting element, agree with us. So that should have never happened. But it happened because we don't have the political clout and influence that we need, and that's because we are still a well-kept secret. So basically, that's me. That's who I'm. What I'll be doing. And if you want, I would like to give you just three of my platforms that I'm really running on. Is that okay? May I go?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and just right quick, just tell you, these are the three major things that I'm looking. There are other things that we've got to do. Number one, communications. No military force has ever won a battle with poor communications. You've got to have good communications. And in a little bit, we'll talk about what that entails. Another thing is winning in the court of public opinion. People, it is foolish. It is ridiculous for us to ever lose any struggle in any area. Even in New Orleans right now, we have the power in Louisiana, for example, to put that monument, the Lee Monument, back up in New Orleans. Now, we'll talk about how that can be done. Yes, I know New Orleans is a strong Black Lives Matter group of people down there. But listen, New Orleans cannot live without the state legislature approving what they do. So, and we run the state in Louisiana right now. 74% of the people, all the people in Louisiana, support Southern heritage. So we could have the city of New Orleans, by the short hairs. We could really force them to do a lot. So we don't have to give up. We can win. All right, that's winning in the court of public opinion. And the final thing, which relates back to these other two elements, is a strong, vigorous, manly PR push. It is time for the Sons of Confederate Veterans be as well known as the NRA, the VFW, the American Legion. All of these groups are well known. And if we become well known, guess who pays attention to that? Politicians. Those suckers, they're only interested in one thing, an easy election next time around. Getting elected and staying elected is what 90% of those people are all about. I'm sorry if your brother-in-law is a politician. That should tell you something right there. Watch out for that brother-in-law. He'll have his hand in your pocket before you know it. But we in the Sons of Confederate Veterans, we have to be well-known, and we can do this with a good, vigorous push in that area. So that's my three major elements that I want to push in the next 2 years anyway.
Something I want to talk about because it's something that's on everybody's mind, and you've actually already released something on this. I'm sure you know where I'm going with this, is our museum and Nathan Bedford Forrest. Now you, Jason, and Chief of Heritage Operations Ron Kennedy have already come up with a pretty good plan. I'm liking it. I'm hoping to see a lot more people join my camp and many others in donating to this. But could you tell us a bit more about the 21st Century Confederate Heroes campaign?
Okay, I'll do that. Essentially, what we're looking at, you remember what I was talking about, a strong PR push. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute, about winning in the court of public opinion, a strong PR push. The reason we cannot do that right now is we don't have the funds available to do it. Right now, the SCV is spending about $10,000 a month servicing a banknote. Once that banknote has been liquidated, we can use a large portion of that money in putting our name out in front of people in the South, make the SCV a well-known organization. So to do that, though, we've got to liquidate that date. Now, the PR, think of it like this. You remember I talked about before Coca-Cola, Chevrolet, Ford, VW. All of these elements started out with essentially no name brand. That nobody knew who they were. But by advertising, by using a really strong PR campaign, they became well known. Well, once we have the funds available, we can do that. Now, one thing is for sure. I've looked at the books. I've been on the GEC now for 6 years. The SCV is solvent. It is not on the border of bankruptcy. Nobody is going to call in our notes. If we do nothing with this 21st century Confederate heroes effort, we can spend the next 5 to 10 years, service that note, and that note will be liquidated. No problem. We can do that. But in the process, we will not be using that money to vindicate the cause for which our Confederate ancestors fought. Our enemy is not going to say, oh, time out. The SCV is busy servicing a banknote, so we can't say nothing bad about the South and the Confederacy right now. No, they're going to go full blast after us. And I'm telling you, folks, I've debated these people more than once, and those people will not be satisfied. And listen, with these 2 ears, listen's deaf a little bit, but I still heard what they said. Their ultimate objective is to get rid of anything that has anything associated with slavery. And that includes disinterring all Confederate veterans and disposing of their bodies. That's what they're saying. Now, listen, all you people out there polishing tombstones and you're making all this long list, you're making it so easy with those people. If we allow them to win, to identify, disinter, and dispose of those bodies. Those people are full of hatred. You just do not realize how much they hate us. And we are a convenient whipping boy for them. And we're convenient because we're not fighting back. So we've got to fight back, and we can do this by liquidating that debt. Now, the 21st Century Confederate Heroes Project is simply a project where we're asking individuals, camps, divisions, organizations outside the SCV. You can be an individual and not even a member of the SCV or any other such organization. And if you'll donate $1,000, you'll become one of 1,500 people who will become known as 21st Century Confederate Heroes. Now, we've set up a system, or in the process of setting up a system right now, where if Moose, you said you had trouble raising $200, okay, if you get $100, send it in and say, I'll send you $50 a month for the next X number of months till I pay this off. Well, you'll become a member. All right. Now, what will you get for your membership? Once we get enough people signing up to this, the first thing we're going to do is reestablish that Forest Plaza, because they take them down, we put them back up. So that Forest Plaza is going to be impressive. It's going to look great on our grounds at our headquarters. Plus, think of the media response to that. You want the SCV not to be a well-kept secret? This is one of the ways we can do it. By joining the 21st Century Confederate Heroes, we can get that Forest Plaza put back together, and we can liquidate that note. Now, to anybody that joins, we're going to give them a little perks to go along. Say, we appreciate your effort, because it is a sacrifice. I've already done one, and somebody asked me of my ancestor. I see up here on the chat there. My ancestor that I am getting when I'm joining the 21st Century Confederate Legion is John Wesley Kennedy. Company, I believe it's Company F, 38 Mississippi Volunteer Infantry. So that's and all of my Confederate ancestors are from Mississippi. And so the ones that I know of now, they're cousins that goes way out there, go to other states also. We bought a membership for my wife and her relatives from Alabama. And his name is William Wesley Church. So he was from Alabama, Wetumpka, Alabama. So when you buy that, you will get a neck ribbon. Nice neck ribbon with a nice medallion on there. It says 21st Century Confederate Heroes. It has General Lee, President Davis, and General Forrest on the medallion, and you'll get to wear that to any event. It's yours when you get it, when you sign up, when you completely pay off. In Moose's case, say he can only put down $100. As soon as he puts down that $100 and pledges that, hey, I will finish this commitment within 18 months, he'll get his medallion, his neck ribbon, and he can wear the neck ribbon all event. Now, one caveat: until you pay that full amount, Moose, that the medallion and the neck ribbon with the medallion on it belongs to the SCV. So if you don't pay it, we take possession of it again. But I'm sure you'll pay it. I have faith in you. So you get a medallion for that. You'll also have a paver that will go in with your anybody that you want to memorialize, such as an ancestor or a deceased relative that you love. A paver that will go along the walkway of 21st century walkway of Confederate heroes. That'll run somewhere from the museum towards the plaza, Forest Plaza. You will get a book of 21st century Confederate heroes with all the information about your ancestor and you, whoever you want to memorialize, and what you want to tell us about them in this book. Well, we are hoping to have 3 books, 500 pages per volume. So if, in my case, I'll be in the first volume because I've already signed up. I think there are roughly 100 people already signed up. So they'll be in the first volume. When we get 500 signed up, we'll do the first book and get that out to everybody. So there's quite a bit of things going on. We're going to have a TV screen in the foyer coming into the museum that will rotate if you desire. Now, if you don't want to do this, but if you desire, have your name printed up there with your ancestors and notifying the public that you are a 21st century Confederate hero. So there's quite a few little things we're doing like that to encourage people, because it's a sacrifice, folks. It's a sacrifice to do this. But I want to make it perfectly clear. I'm not doing this to build a better museum. I'm not doing this to have the museum necessarily paid off. That's what it will do. I am doing this so we can liberate those funds to use them for what most of our members wanted always to do, and that's to go on the offensive. I do not believe people join, especially in the last 10 years, has joined the Sons of Confederate Veterans just so they'd be in a civil war organization. They join because they're mad about what's going on in this nation. Let me give you a little clue here. I just recently returned from the state of Washington. I was out there with my granddaughter's wedding, and I had my suit coat with my lapel pin on, SCV lapel, but no one out there knew who I was other than my direct family. Some stranger from the wedding, young man, I'd say in his mid 40s, walked up to me, and he was interested. He said, "I love your accent." I said, "Well, I'm a Southern. I'm a proud Southerner." And automatically he said, "You know what aggravates me? Is people saying that war is all about slavery." And boy, he gave me a lecture why that war was about states' rights and not about slavery. This guy didn't know me from Adam. He's in the state of Washington. Now, of course, the part of the state he's in is very conservative. They're red counties over there. But that's what he said. I was in Boise, Idaho about 2 years ago. My wife and I were speaking at the Pacific Northwest Convention, Division meeting reunion. And I was in Boise, and after the reunion, Betty and I went to a museum. It was an aeronautical museum close by in Boise, and we were touring there. And a gentleman walked up that worked in the museum, and he engaged us in conversation. He wanted to know why I was there, and I told him I was speaking to the members of the Sons of Confederate Veterans up there, and he was surprised that there were members up there. And then he too proceeded to tell me how upset he was about the way that Southern history is being treated. And he noted back then, he said, it's not just, he said, they're going to get all of our history. And he's right. So I'm telling y'all this just to let you know, we have allies out there, but those people need to hear from us. Our people, Southerners, need to hear from us so that they will not be negatively impacted by all this liberal, woke trash that's being said about the Confederacy. How many times on news, even Fox and Newsmax, very conservative groups, you hear people talking about the war being fought to free the slaves. Well, now, if the war is being fought to free the slaves, what does that mean your ancestors were fighting for? Well, they were fighting to keep them in slavery, obviously. Well, you know that's not true, but we have not had the opportunity to give our side of the story. If we get this doggone banknote paid off, we will be able to tell our story. And not only will we be able to tell our story, we'll be able to tell people who are really interested for more information where they can find out more about the Sons of Confederate Veterans. And oh, by the way, if you're in the Memphis, Tennessee area, come by and see our museum and you'll really see the rest of the story. So we've got a lot going on, folks. We can win. And the 21st Century Confederate Heroes, if you're interested, you can go to, I had to write this down, Moose, so I make sure I get it right. If you go to our website, scv.org, click on Confederate Legion, and at the top of the page, when you get on the Confederate Legion, you'll see 21st Century Confederate 21st Century Confederate Heroes. Click on that, and it opens up to a 3-page description. Goes into more detail of what I'm just hitting the high points right now. It gives you more detail. And then if you want to then donate, you can go back to scv.org, look at the donate button, click on the donate today button. And at the left-hand side, you'll see 21st Century Confederate Heroes. Click on that, and you can start signing up there. Now, as of right now, I don't think we have a downloadable form that you could print up and maybe fill out and mail in. But that is one of the things we got to do. And I'm talking too much, Moose. Oh my God. I want to get to the communication, if that's okay with you. I want to move over because.
Go ahead. You're making my night easy.
Well, I'm sorry. We want to hear you make a few mistakes so we have something to laugh about next week. Come on.
I already did that the first 5 minutes. It's all you now.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about communication, because one of the biggest problems we have right now is communication in the SCV. Now, always remember, communication is a two-way street. I'm not talking about the commander-in-chief or the headquarters talking down to the camps or the divisions or whatever. It is a two-way street. We learn from each other. So it's a two-way street. But one of our biggest problems is our website. And I've been fighting this for almost 6 years now. And one of the great problems that we have now, I'm going to be honest with you, it's not necessarily the people who are trying to run the website. We don't have the money to hire somebody to do a full-time job right now, because guess what we're doing with all our money, our extra money? Well, we're paying down a banknote. So once we pay that banknote down, we're going to be sure we get a better website. Now, right now, the website's great. If you're a member and you need information, you can go on there and you can find information. That's a good service for membership. But listen, that should be our international billboard to recruit people and to educate people. So what I'm looking at in the future is have that standard website we got now, which is a membership portal for membership, and then another website. So when they click on scv.org, they go to something that says something to the neighborhood, information about the SCV over here, membership information over here, or information from SCV members over here. So you have two choices, and then on the one that's just for education and enlightenment, and also finally membership application, it'll be a much different group altogether. So we've got to get a better website. We've got to have one that's that will not only be easy for people who know nothing about the SCV to maneuver through, it'll be easy for us to recruit new members. Another thing we've got to do is make sure that our membership sign up to the Telegraph. Not only sign up, but stay signed up. And also, most importantly of all, read the messages, folks. When the general gives orders to his left flank to advance so many yards, those people need to know that information because it's critical in the overall battle scheme. So we need to be sure we have that good communication, make sure everybody's in on the deal. Commander's comment. How many people in your camp listen to Commander's comment? Paul Gremlin and I started this 6 years ago, and we at that time had to travel. Paul literally traveled 2.5 to 3 hours every month. He and I traveled. I traveled 2 hours. He traveled 3.5 to film those Commander's comment. Now, thankful we can do it in the comfort of our own home, thanks to people like Moose and Connor. Thank y'all. So, but Commander's comment is very important. And let me give you an example. It's important because your camp needs to hear the news of what's going on. How many of y'all know about the recent monument that was erected in Virginia? It was to General Stark, I believe. He had some association with Louisiana, but he was a Virginia general. He's buried there. I think the old Brunswick camp there in Virginia, I believe, I hope I'm saying that correct, are the ones that ramrodded this, but they dedicated it, I believe, this past weekend. And if I read the news release correctly that they put out, they had over 100 people there. And it's a beautiful obelisk that's standing up there, and the general's got a monument there. But your camp and your camp leaders, your division, they need to know about this. Why? Because it's inspirational. It tells, wow, they did that. What can we do? And not only that, it lets the general public know what's going on. Hey, we got some things going on. So that's very important. Now, with monuments, I'm going to repeat. If you're going to get tired in the next 2 years hearing me say this, I hope not. Hope you take it to heart. Monuments cannot tell people why they are there or who they are memorializing. If we let the left-wing woke people give their narrative, the false narrative, then that'll be a monument to hatred, to bigotry, and to treason. We, the Sons of Confederate Veterans, we have to put a voice to that monument. And we do that through things such as the Confederate Legions and also the things that we can do on a national level at the SCV that will help you. So we're going to do that. And I'm hoping during my administration to be able, sorry, my dog must saw a Yankee walk by. I'm hoping that in the next year or so to be able to communicate with the brigade commanders of each division. If we can do it through hopefully a electronic newsletter, the brigade commanders are the ones that we can communicate with, say, look, we've got a national project going on, get your camps organized, or there's something coming up that we need to be aware of, and just to communicate again back and forth with each other so we know what's that brigade in Tennessee doing that maybe I can emulate here in say, Arkansas, and vice versa. So communication is very important. Now, winning on the public opinion. Boy, I tell you, this is what Ron and I just love. We just love. Ron and I have been busy in doing public relation type events since we were just getting ready to graduate from high school. I got started real early with the Barry Goldwater campaign, and Moose is sitting there saying, "Who is Barry Goldwater?"
I actually know who Barry Goldwater is.
Good. I remember getting his book, "Conscience of a Conservative and Why Not Victory," and I remember my dad. His first impression was, "Why are you reading that book by that blasted Republican?" And my dad and the rest of the people in Mississippi voted for Barry Goldwater in that next election. So anyway, Ron and I have been busy, and we do a lot of study on how do you mold and shape public opinion. Here in, I'm going to use Louisiana for an example because I've worked so much here in Louisiana doing this. The LSU University did a poll back when New Orleans was wanting to take down the monument to General Lee, which they subsequently did. But the liberals at LSU wanted to do a poll and see, well, what do the people of Louisiana, how do they feel about that? 74% of the people in Louisiana said, leave the monument alone. And in New Orleans, now listen to this, in New Orleans at that time, it was like 44 to 46% of the people in New Orleans said, leave that monument alone. So, you know, we have people on our side. Ron and I did a survey ourselves. We paid for it ourselves because we was wanting the Sons of Confederate Veterans to do a nationwide poll and a poll of the Confederation on these same issues. So we paid for a poll ourselves. And the response, and what we polled were the registered voters who were either moderate voters, libertarians, or Republicans. We got their response to these questions, and I want you to know it was like 99% positive. It was a mail-in. We'd mail them a card. They checked the card. They didn't have to sign it, and they'd mail it back. Postage paid. Yeah, we paid postage coming in, going. And we got these things back, and you should see in the margin where people are writing. One person I knew, he wrote all around the margins, it's about blankety blank time somebody asked me my opinion on this. So it was like 99% positive. So that's what, when later on the Sons of Confederate Veterans, we did a national poll, and we did a poll of 16 southern states. On the national poll, we polled the general population. This is Northerners, Western, Southerners, everybody. It was like 60% respondent was positive about Southern heritage, Southern history. So that was a good response there. Then we polled the conservative and moderate voters in the 16 southern states. And that ran anywhere from 85 to 96% positive to very positive response. So that tells us, such as in Louisiana, for example, I was talking about New Orleans a while ago. In Louisiana, which is run, we got a Republican conservative governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, House and Senate. Those people, if they were afraid of next election of getting those SCV people upset, when we need something done, it would get done. And if we'd had that type of leverage when the New Orleans incident was going on, the legislature could simply say, you need a new water pump. You know, New Orleans is 10 feet below sea level. Y'all understand that, you know. Without pumps, they'd be in a pool of water. You people need a new pump, and you want the legislature to pay for it. Well, those 75% of Louisianians who are PO'd at y'all for taking down the monument of Lee said you can have your pump when Lee goes back. Otherwise, learn how to tread water. Now, that's how you deal with people. That's how you deal with them. And we can do it if we have a proper PR campaign. We're organized. Do y'all remember? You should remember in Virginia recently, the people in Virginia, when a school board, a woke school board was elected, and they took names of Confederate generals off of local schools. Well, those people didn't just quit and say, oh, we can't do anything. They outvoted us. No, they got together, and they at the next election, they got rid of, I think it was 5 out of the 6 woke members. And now those Confederate names are back on those schools. People, we can win. We can win. But we got to get out of this idea that all the SCV should do is polish tombstones and go run up down the street, wave a flag. Polishing tombstones is very admirable. But if you don't tell the general public why it's important to recognize and defend the heritage and honor of those people, well, the liberals are going to take over. They're going to win. If you don't tell people why it's important to have that gigantic Confederate flag flying on the interstate highway, guess what's going to happen? I don't care. I do not care if you say that flag is on my private property. That doesn't make any difference to these people. Look what they did to President Trump in New York. Once they're in control, they can do whatever they want to your private property. There is no such thing as private property when those goons are in control. They will tell you that flag is a public nuisance and it must be hidden. You got to put a fence around it where nobody can see it. You can walk on your property and look at it, but you can't have it where the general public will be offended by it. Now, I'm not being hyper on this, hyperbolic. Listen, folks, this will happen. In 1996, when Ron and I wrote the second edition of The South Was Right, there was one picture in there of a Confederate monument in North Carolina that had been decapitated. We told the people then, we told everybody, this is going to happen everywhere. Well, we were told that we were radicals, we were unrational, we were just extremists, we were just secessionists, and we needed to be kicked out of the SCV because that's not going to happen down here. People down here love the South. Oh, yeah? Y'all remember a thing called Charlottesville? Y'all remember a thing, Monument Avenue? You remember New Orleans, Louisiana? Not only did it happen, it's happened worse than what we thought. Now, when I'm telling you right now that our ancestors will be dug up and disposed of, don't tell me I'm radical and I don't know what I'm talking about. I know I'm radical, but I know what I'm talking about. Been there, done that. It's time for the SCV. Number one, let's get this doggone bank debt paid for. Join the Confederate Legion. I'm sorry. Join. Yeah, I want you to join the Confederate Legion too.
Do that too.
First century Confederate heroes. Let's get 1,500 people. It can be camps. If every SCV camp would join this right now, we'd be 3/4 of the way there, Moose. We'd be almost there. We'd be putting up Forest Plaza within 6 months if every SCV camp will do this, if every division will do this, if a certain number of our members will do this, if people outside of our organization wants to donate this, that's great. But we can do that and we can go on the offensive. Let me tell you right quick, some of the other things that we can do in the SCV. We got an election, a general election coming up. I know we are a tax-exempt organization. We do not get involved in endorsing political parties or candidates, so we're not going to do that. But listen, we're going to create, if I'm your if I'm your commander-in-chief, we will have somebody, I think I might get Forrest Dawes, if I can twist his arm, to do us some 30-second spots, radio spots. The Sons of Confederate Veterans, America's oldest continuous operating veterans organization, encourage you to go out and vote. Protect our republic republic and the right of free vote, citizens' freedom to vote. Please, the Sons of Confederate Veterans encourage you to vote this Tuesday or whenever the election. So you see what we're doing, we're just simply encouraging people to go out and vote. But listen, what will the politicians who are this time they're running for election, they're hearing that the Sons of Confederate Veterans are they telling their people to get out and vote, and everybody, and they're doing that all over the South right now. We become well known, and those people will learn that those SCV people, they're getting busy, they're getting on the stick. In Georgia, Georgia has done a great job. They are doing voter registration at a lot of their events. Do that, voter registration. Again, you may not get but 1 or 2 new voters on the road, but the politicians, they notice what you're doing. They pay attention. Same thing with voter turnout. We can do in the SCV, you can encourage your members to go out and vote. If anybody's having difficulty in mobility and getting to the polling places, you can offer to help them there. So getting out the vote is another thing that we can do. It does not affect our tax-exempt status. Now, you can't put them in your car and give them a lecture about who to vote for. Now, you can't do that. And if they announce that they're going to vote for the guy that you hate, you just have to bite your tongue and go on and take them on. But again, it lets the political establishment know what's going on. Now, in Virginia, they did a great thing few months ago, they did billboards all across Virginia on Confederate History Month. And I believe it was during Stonewall Jackson's birthday. Another great idea. Yard signs similar to that will do. Another thing that we need to do. National can help with this. In April of next year, one of the things that I'm going to be pushing is for every division to have at least one, and hopefully more than that, billboard celebrating April as Confederate History Month. Now listen, billboards are a 7-second piece of advertising. You're driving down the highway, at most you got 7 seconds to get their attention, let them read something and get them going. So what you do, now, and remember this folks, we probably will not be able to put a Confederate flag on that monument, on that billboard. I'm sorry, I've talked to too many people and they're not going to do it. Now, one day we're going to change things. We will win. And at that point in time, we'll change things. But right now, let's get a picture of Robert E. Lee, the most recognized Confederate in the world. Put him on one side and then have on the other side, April, Confederate Heritage Month or Confederate History Month. Join the Sons of Confederate Veterans, 1-800-MY-SOUTH. That's all you got to. You do not want to try to give a lecture on a billboard. You do that, and again, people see it. Politicians see it. Now, I know what you're thinking. I'm in Louisiana, and we only can forward one billboard, and those idiots in charge of the Louisiana Division put that billboard down at DeRidder, Louisiana. My God, there's nobody in DeRidder. How's that going to help me up in Monroe, Louisiana, where the sophisticated people live? Well, simple, folks. You get a picture of the billboard in DeRidder. You take a nice picture, make a picture of it, put it in a letter to all your elected officials in Monroe, Louisiana, and to the VFW and any other civic organization, announcing from your local camp, the Sons of Confederate Veterans are putting billboards across the South, including Louisiana. We got one, but we don't have to tell them. And here's a picture of one of our billboards. We hope that you will look at our video and learn more about Southern heritage. Something that, and if every camp then would send that to their elected officials and people in the community, your Kiwanis Club, your Lions Club, various social and civic groups, let them know who you are, April, what April is about. Again, these elected officials, when they get that and see that billboard, they don't know where that billboard is. They don't know that's the only one we got in Louisiana. Now, hopefully, I've just embarrassed the people in Louisiana enough that we'll have 3 or 4 or 5. I know Virginia had several, but we can do things like that, folks. We do not have to stand and accept the charge of the enemy. General Forrest, I believe he said, if you see the enemy is going to attack you, don't stand and accept the attack. You charge them. That's what we've got to do. We've got to get on the offense. We got to go move our people and let people know who we are, what we believe, why we believe. Give them the courage to stand up for the South, and we can win. I have no doubt that we can win if we can do the things that I've just mentioned. And like I said, whether it's getting a new website, whether it's doing national, and I'm running out of time. I don't even talk about some of the national things that we can do at the national level to help this. Now, remember this, when we do all this advertising, your recruitment at the local level is going to be much easier. Just think if you're at a gun show in, in So-So, Mississippi. You know where So-So is?
I've actually been there once or twice.
Okay, you're at a gun show at So-So, Mississippi. It'll be easier to recruit members to the SCV if they've seen SCV people or hear about the SCV talk about on Newsmax or Fox, if they've heard it on their radio, if they read it in a national magazine, some conservative national magazine. It'll be easier to recruit those people. And not only that, when you talk about retention, one of the main reasons people are dropping out of the SCV when they do is because it's not doing what I want to do. I joined this effort to join a movement. I didn't join to join a social club. Dr. Samuel Mitchell, I think it's on here, and he said when he joined our camp, our past camp commander. Dr. Mitchell said, I'm joining a movement. I don't want to join a social club. He said, I like the quote Civil War. He said, but I want to join a movement of people who are willing to do what it takes to not only win back what we lost, but to totally defeat our enemy. Now, I'm going to close. I've been talking too long, Moose, but I want to close just to remind people once again, I'm all about winning, not defending. If all you want is someone who will continue a defensive mode, then you don't want me. Not only are you going to make me miserable, I'll make you miserable, because I'm not about defending. I'm about winning. And by the God, we can win. There's no reason we cannot win. But the only thing that'll keep us from winning is our own inability to think outside the box and see what works and what doesn't work. And what works right now is winning in the court of public opinion. That is where we will win. That museum is a great tool for this effort. But this effort, the 21st century Confederate heroes, is not necessarily about the museum, folks. If you heard anything I said tonight, you'll know we're going to have to pay that off, that museum debt. We got to pay that banknote part off in order to do what I'm saying that the SCV should be about forever, and that is to vindicate the cause for which they fought, our Confederate ancestors fought, and to win back everything that we have lost, and then to totally, completely, utterly destroy our enemy, make them so despised that no one will even let them have a voice anymore. So we can do that, folks. But we got to do different. We cannot do what we've been doing for the last 35 years. I've joined in 1985. We were in a defensive mood then. Thankfully, since Commander Gramlin, we started with the Confederate Legion. Other commanders have done smaller things along the way, but I'm talking about something totally outside the box and going even much further. We can do it, folks. We can win. We do not have to accept defeat. And this guy from Mississippi, living in Louisiana, I will not accept defeat.
Wow. I definitely loved hearing everything you had to say tonight, Commander Kennedy. A lot of great stuff, a lot of great things, hopefully going forward. I wish you all the best luck on your campaign, Commander Kennedy. And hopefully we'll have you on the show after the election to talk about the future, and of course have you on for Commander's comments. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to share this episode out so we can get Lieutenant Commander-in-Chief Kennedy's platform out there so people can get to know what he's about. A lot of great stuff. And make sure you tune in Monday, 7 p.m. Confederate Standard Time for your the new weekly episode, or the weekly episode of SCV Chat. And make sure you send your pictures, short videos, and write-ups to scvyouthoutreach@gmail.com, and it will be featured on the upcoming episode of Look Around the Confederation, or posted on our social media, which has been doing getting a lot of eyes on the SCV. That's something we've been really proud of that we just started doing. So make sure you do that. Make sure you check us out at scvchat.com, and we will see y'all Monday. Do you have anything else you want to say before we end it?
Just stay Southern and stay active and charge to the sounds of the guns, folks. We can do it.
Ron had to slip one in there before we ended it. Actually, I think we do have one question that I think would be interesting to hear your viewpoint on. Sorry, I did the whole outro spiel before I remembered this, but it's talking about the Friends of the SCV, and we've been seeing a lot of questions about that, so I did want to hear your take on it before we went off the air. Mr. Tony asked, Commander Kennedy, how do you see the Friends of the SCV playing a part of advocating the Southern cause in the future? And his second question is, what can Friends do more of to help with the fight for the cause?
Number one, I'm a great fan of the Friends, primarily because in many camps, I've been camp commander in 3 different camps, and I've seen where the Friends have a lot of times done more than some of the members, other full-time members. So I fully support the idea of the Friends, and I'm hoping that Ron and I both have talked about the Friends is an untapped resource for the SCV, and we need to get into that. And one good thing about Friends, if you get them in, a lot of people are interested. Well, I don't think I have heritage or lineage. My ancestors were all from somewhere else. But you say, well, let's get in the Friends, and we have genealogists that can maybe help work with you, not necessarily do your genealogy, but help work with you. And we may find some. I don't know if y'all are familiar with Al Benson. He's a co-author of mine with Lincoln's Marxists. And Al Benson was born in, I believe he was born in Rhode Island or Massachusetts, and lived his entire adult life, yes, in Illinois. And he is a copperhead of all copperheads, and he is an excellent fellow, great friend of the SCV. Well, we got to work on his genealogy, found him a Confederate ancestors, and you would have thought, my goodness, it was like Christmas times 10. He was the happiest man, and Al is now he's in a nursing home right now, but he still writes. I read one of his blogs today in which he was talking about, of all things, the Southern Poverty Law Center is having to fire 60 employees. So they're having trouble there. And this, again, folks, points out that people are getting fed up with this woke mentality. We need to seize the opportunity that's before us. And that's why it's so important to use all our assets, including the Friends. And you're going to see a lot of those Friends of the SCV, I believe, will be on that monument or that plaque in which we have the 21st century Confederate heroes. And again, I'm not trying to take anything away from the real heroes who have suffered and died in battle and otherwise, but people who are at this point in their life willing to make the sacrifice of pledging $1,000 to get this job done, to me, that is a heroic effort, and is worthy for you to build a legacy for your children's children one day to go by that headquarters and see your name, that their great-granddaddy, great-grandmother, or great-great-grandparent was part of saving Southern heritage and Southern history for them.
Wow, I don't know if we could have had a more perfect way to end the show. That's a great question, Mr. Tony. Thank you. I'm loving seeing all the added attention this campaign cycle on the Friends of the SCV. And Army of Tennessee Councilman Carl Jones said it best, if we could get a lot more people signed up for the Friends of the SCV, how much larger will our voice continue to grow as we also recruit for the SCV?
Right, exactly.
So it's been a great time having you on tonight, Commander Kennedy. And remember, everybody, to stay Southern.
Amen.
Good night.
Good night.